most small towns and communities will have um, business grants. A lot of these, especially small towns. Now, if you're in Atlanta area, you might want to look hard, but I doubt they'll have them. But in the smaller towns, they're trying to build things or at least businesses of this nature. And so there's a lot of grants out there. There's a lot of free money that you can obtain. You just got to know where to look. So whatever town you're in, find your nearest technical college and talk to them. They usually know where the stuff's at. My name is Tim Drexler, and I'm a partner at Fellthorn Games, which is a very small little studio that myself and a person I work with here at the college that I teach at, we got together and formed back in 2014. I am originally from Fitzgerald, Georgia, born and raised there. So I am a 100% purebred Georgia boy, I guess you could say. Even graduated from University of Georgia. So. Growing up in Fitzgerald, we had no theater. We had a movie theater that was 2 movies, and they would play these movies, for 6 months at a time. It'd be the same movie because they couldn't afford to get. And so the only entertainment I had was I was on a farm and I was in the country. So the only entertainment I had was either run around with a stick that looked like a gun, pretend like I'm shooting things like kids do, or in 1986, there's a little game console called the Nintendo Entertainment System came out. And I was given that. It came out in 85, but my parents were poor. And so it took them an extra year to get me one. But they got me one. And that was it. I was hooked. But the whole time, as I was playing these things, I would get the occasional. And for the you older generation will know this. You would get PC Gaming Monthly magazine, or of course there was Nintendo Power, and all these old magazines that you would go into the grocery store and just kind of sit at the magazine rack and read through them real quick. And so I started seeing how some of this stuff was made, or at least seeing behind the scenes, and it started interesting me. My brother, it got one of these old, it wasn't quite a Commodore 64. It was a computer that you would get at a Radio Shack. And it didn't even come with a monitor. It was just a computer. It was like the keyboard and the computer base. And in the back of it, you could put cartridges for games. And I remember it came with a book that had code in it. And it was hundreds of lines of code that you would type just to get the computer to say something like hello or something. And I got into that. And so it was a combination of that and my video games. It was just kind of hooked me. And of course, I always had a kind of an artistic side to me, learning to draw and drawing comic books and stuff. And so it was just kind of led into video games. I got my associates in art from ABAC, which is in Tifton, Georgia. And then I transferred to the University of Georgia and got a bachelor's, which to this day, I wished they hadn't done this, but when I went to UGA, they had right before I got there, they had a program where the art school and the drama school had combined, and they were offering this very unique game development program that included motion capture and then the art from the art school. But naturally, as fate always has it, I get there and the program goes completely under, and they take the game design stuff and they stick it in the drama department, which is fine. And my professor, who's still there to this day, his name is Mike Hussey. We were all under him. My game professor was a guy named Alan Partridge, who I believe he is what is called an Adobe evangelist, and he works for Adobe now, going around spreading the gospel of Adobe products. But he taught us, Partridge taught us game design, and Mike taught us 3D modeling and 3D animation. And so, yeah, I graduated from there and got into the industry. Well, I actually didn't even work in the game industry at first. I got into television and worked in TV, worked for Perpetual Motion Studios, doing some some small work for a TV channel. I'm sorry, the History Channel. It was a TV show called Boneyards, and I worked a little on that, and then I got into local access television, doing some stuff for that, and then all the while working on small. At this time, I was doing like Flash games, and they were going up on little small websites like ebombsworld.com, which is that's really dating me, but they were nothing to write home about. It was just me learning how to do this stuff, and but yeah, got in it that way, and then started slowly working my way up. When I decided to take the teaching position at the college, I did it for a number of reasons. You learning how to do this stuff. There's colleges like Savannah College of Art and Design that teach this stuff. They teach 3D modeling, they teach animation and such, but it's pricey, and not everyone can afford it. And as someone who grew up on a farm, poor in Fitzgerald, Savannah College of Art and Design was great and all, but I couldn't afford that tuition. And so when I got offered the position to teach and build a program at Wiregrass, which at the time was called Valdosta Technical College, I was like, yeah, I would love to build a program up and try to see if I can offer this to people who came from my kind of similar background. And so I started with the program, and then as the program got built up, and I designed the curriculum. I worked with the TCSG to build the curriculum for it. And as it got built up, I realized that I was lacking something in my professional achievements, and that was to actually publish a game. I had worked on things. I had been a part of a team that had done stuff, but I'd never done the whole thing from point A to point B. And I thought, if I'm going to sit here and teach these kids how to do game development, I pretty much need to have that understanding of that area of the field. So I was like, okay, how do I do this? So I got together, and thankfully, because I'm at a technical school, we have accounting instructors and we have business management instructors. So when you want to try to get some information about how to start a business, hey, right down the hallway from my office is several instructors who do just that. And so I started gathering information. And the biggest thing I wanted to do with this was I wanted to write it all down and create kind of a blueprint for anybody who wants to do this. And I actually added it into one of my classes, CISD 2740, which is the game development class. It is built into that curriculum as part of basically as part of the lecture. And I take them step by step. And thankfully, we are in a state that allows for the creation of an LLC type software studio to be extremely cheap to do. It's $50. It's really cheap. And really the main cost that we incurred was the website. Most web companies usually have to have a website to showcase their work, although it's possible you could get away with not having one. But really that was the most we paid for it. And then, well, at the end of the year, what money we did make, we had to return that into to IRS, so we had to pay an accountant to get that stuff done. But really, at the end of the day, once we did it and we formed the company, it would really just cost us about $500. And so, and we probably could have gone a little cheaper than that. And so anyways, we took this information and we were like, okay, let's, bring this to the students. Let's see if they want to do something like this. And, a lot of students are broke, but, a lot of them, they really do think it would cost $10,000 to $20,000 to start something like this. And it's like, well, yeah, if you want to make a AAA title right out the gate, sure, that's probably going to cost a lot. But, anybody can make a cell phone game from their bedroom and launch it. And, you may not make a lot of money, but you've produced a game, and that's more than what most people can say. So, and so, yeah, that's kind of the all about reason why we did it, why we got into it. And if we made a little money on the side, so much the better. But mostly it was to just learn this process and bring it to the students at the school. Well, every community's got gamers. And I've been around for a couple of years there. I actually worked for a company, GameStop. For them, I was actually what was called a store opening coordinator, and I would go around opening stores and stuff. I only did that for a couple of years, but what I did find out, it took me around several places: Jessup, Georgia, Tifton, Georgia, Moultrie, and then I had to go to Florida for go to Jacksonville and go to um, Lake City, Florida. And so all these little towns, what you find out when you go to these places and you set these stores up and you hire people is there are gamers everywhere. And a lot of them, they start off, they want to get into it. Maybe they don't have a school to go to, but they don't know where to go. And so places like GameStop is a start, or at least it used to be. And so they would go there, they show up, they'd want to work there and stuff. And so yeah, every community has gamers, and those who want to learn will show up. And you really don't have to work too hard to advertise. Really, you just once word of mouth starts getting out that there's a game design program, that it's kind of like a virus. It kind of spreads out, and everyone starts showing up. And that's exactly what's happened to us. But we do have some advertising things that we do here at the college that spreads the word. But they're good students. The biggest issue that we probably run into over the years is there are a lot of kids who love to play video games, and then they find out that making one and playing one are two separate things. And some of them, of course, they want to be streamers and they want to go like Markiplier or, insert your favorite streamer. They want to be like them. And it's like, well, that's fine, guys. We have a video production class you can go into, learn how to get a good mic and good good video camera and stuff, and go talk to them. But I don't do that. If you want to learn how to do 3D modeling, motion capture, 3D animation, and use the Unreal Engine, hey, I can teach you that. And so I do run into that from time to time. Usually those students will filter out after a while because they realize this is really hard. But the ones that I do get are very hardcore about it. They practice. When they go home, they give up that 2 hours of gaming and instead jump on their computer and 3D model and 3D animate, or use the Unreal Engine to do some stuff. So I found I've had a good cluster of kids over the years. If we're looking at the finances of it, Valdosta is a cheap place to live. We've actually got really nice restaurants. So if you're going to set up shop somewhere to do this, these little it's funny. I've been to Florida and I've been to areas in Florida where they ask me where I'm from, and I'll say, well, I'm from Valdosta, and I say, oh, you're from the big city. And then I'm like, well, I'm not really sure what your definition of big city is here. Is Valdosta a big city? It's 100,000 people. So I guess for someone that's from a town of 5,000, like Fitzgerald, it's probably big. But it's just, to me, that it's just that right size. It's not too big, not too small. You can get high-speed internet as long as you're within certain areas. If you decide to set up shop out in the sticks somewhere, then obviously you got to look for Starlink, because you're not going to get AT&T fiber. But most of the areas, especially since when I first moved here in 2007, the high-speed internet was not readily available, but now it really is. In fact, I actually have one of the assignments in one of the classes I teach is for students to go out and look at their internet, like where they live, and look what internet possibilities they can have, and it's gotten better over the years. They have all these different choices. So that's there. The business licensing thing is pretty cheap. The taxes are cheap, you want to start off making games from your house or from your apartment or whatever. Probably the biggest issue would be, most independent game developers, typically you would get a PO box, but because of what happened, I think it was like maybe 6 or 7 years ago, Google and Apple had to start asking for people's actual address, and so people had to give their developers, when they develop games for those platforms, had to give their actual address. So the PO box thing was not able to be used. But if you have a place to live, which by the way is also cheap down here too, cost of living, rent and all that, then you can just set up shop and I've actually got students right now that they 4 of them got together, rented a house, and they're developing a game right now that they're going to try to release on Steam. within the next couple of years. Hopefully, cross my fingers that they get that done. I'm praying for them, But yeah, it's just a nice place. Valdosta is a nice place to do something like this. We've got 4 little small games that we worked on under the Fellthorn Games name that we've produced. We've got this game called Fellthorn Manor. That one was my favorite game I've ever made, and it is a throwback, or excuse me, it's an homage to a game series that I loved back in the old days called Shadowgate. It was an old game made by, and the people who made Shadowgate made another game series called Deja Vu. Deja Vu was more of a detective series. Shadowgate was what if we mixed detective with like Lord of the Rings, and it was just these basic point and click type scenarios. So the translation from that type of game to a mobile smartphone, it was just a no-brainer. It matched perfectly because you could, instead of using your mouse, you could just use your finger, and it just worked out. And so we made a kind of an homage to that with that Fellthorn Manor. Then we made a couple other little small games just to kind of test these ideas and really just get our feet under us and kind of understand, how to make games for cell phones. Because again, when I went through college, smartphones didn't exist. I was being taught literally how to make games that looked like World of Warcraft, because that was the big thing when I graduated. That game was out and it was huge, or it was slowly climbing, and so that was what we were taught really. So I wanted to understand that market, the mobile market, and I would suggest that for anybody that's up and coming. If you're going to make a video game, don't come out of the gate trying to create Grand Theft Auto. It's impossible. I mean, you can't make something that big by yourself. And look at what's out there and understand how many people made those games, how many people it required. Undertale was 2 people. Braid was 1 or 2 people. Super Meat Boy was 2 people. Cuphead was 2 people. Stardew Valley, which is one of my favorite little games, was 1 guy. And so it is possible for you to make something. But when you look at Stardew Valley and then you compare it to something like a Grand Theft Auto, there's obviously a drastic difference. So you have to make sure that when you make something, the scope is within your capabilities. And so, but anyways, got off on a tangent there. We're working on right now is VR. I'm heavy into VR right now. I just think it's the next paradigm shift for video games. It's the last kind of final frontier, really, that you can kind of touch upon. And as soon as they can figure out how to stop making people get sick from it, I think it'll be a lot more popular. But we're working on we're taking that Fellthorn Games game that we made, and we're converting it to a VR scenario, and making it basically like a sequel. It's called Return to Fellthorn Manor, so it is a sequel, but it's all in VR. And so we're just taking that game concept and applying it to that. And that's currently what we're working on right now. Now, I also at Wiregrass, I used the Unreal Game Engine to do several projects. Right now, I am supervising a group that we hire. Wiregrass was able to get a grant, a VR grant, to build an educational virtual reality simulation game. And it's built, because Wiregrass is a technical college. So we teach things like welding and automotive. And when COVID hit, a lot of those kids couldn't come to class. Well, not everybody has an arc welding set up at home. So how do you do that? And so that's what this grant's for. This grant is for trying to develop that. And so we have a team right now that I'm supervising that, I guess you could, if you gave me a name, it would be producer. But I'm kind of looking over them, and they are working on building exactly that. They're working on building a virtual reality simulation for welding, and using the Unreal Game Engine for that. I'm a huge proponent of the Unreal Game Engine. I love that engine. It just makes things a lot simpler, and you're able to do so much with it. And the fact that now Hollywood is getting on board with it, I think it's a kind of a telltale sign that's it's the big dog right now. Now I have My partner and I did produce a game using Unity, but as I'm the artist, from my perspective, Unity is more for programmers, and whereas Unreal is more for artists, at least from the interface design. But if you are going to make a 2D game, I would probably say go with Unity, just simply because Unreal doesn't really have as well enough built the tools for a perfect 2D game. Something like Cuphead, that's that type of game may not work well in Unreal, but tends to work better in Unity. But yeah, that's what we're working on right now. I've also used Unreal to do some nice visual representations of some before and after shots when we're going to reconstruct a room, or they're going to hire somebody to come in and rebuild a room here at the school. I've used Unreal to do a mock-up of what it should look like, and they've actually used what I've built. And if you ever come to campus, I can show you the student center. They redid the entire student center, and it is almost a 1-for-1 matchup of what I built in Unreal to showcase what it should look like. And it's kind of scary when I walk in there from time to time, because I'm like, this is kind of what I built. But yeah, that's kind of the stuff that we're doing right now.
And where do people find you?
Right now, the website's fellthorngames.com. And you can go there, or you can always email me at tim.drexler@wiregrass.edu. Like I said, we're a small studio, and we're not going to get to the size of Bethesda. This is just a little passion project that we do to just make some stuff and put it out there. And yeah, so but if you ever have questions or something, just send us an email, and we will be glad to. I'll talk to you.